Hello, everyone. Happy afternoon. I hope that you all have had a wonderful time at this conference and that while you're here, you find this experience enjoyable. So, my name is Tameka McNair. I currently wear two hats at Microsoft right now. One, I'm the HR customer engagement lead. So essentially, when our customers want to talk to Microsoft about what we're doing from an HR perspective when it comes to Viva or AI or culture or any of those topics. The second part of my role, I am the executive sponsor for the Microsoft Alumni Network. So essentially, I'm the bridge between Microsoft and our alumni community. My intention for this session is that you all have a great experience. I cannot talk about employee experience or any type of experience without setting that first. So what does that mean? I hope that one, you all take away something that's extremely valuable. Two, that you all are engaging. I will ask questions and those types of things. In addition to that, I would love for you all to stay connected with me even post this session. During this session, you may laugh, you may smile. If you cry, it can only be tears of joy, okay? Can we agree there? Okay, this is our agenda for the day. I'm gonna do a formal introduction because I kind of want to set the stage on who is Tameka, how did I get here, and make it very inviting for you all to join this experience with me. Then I'm gonna talk more about the new world of work, with just all the changes with hybrid and the changes with the digital transformation journey that many of us have been on for the last several years. Then I'm going to talk about the employee experience and culture. Then I'll walk through our Viva HR journey. And then I'm going to open up for Q&A. And what you will learn about me, I am an open book and I am willing to answer any question that you all throw my way. And if I don't have an answer, I'll promise to follow up and make sure that you have one. All right, introduction. Now, I know you all didn't think that you would come to the most magical place in the world and meet a real live unicorn. I am often referenced as a unicorn for many different reasons. One, I'm an engineer by trade. Industrial engineer. I did a focus in human factors. So I've always been intrigued by not just building a tool or a product, but how does the end user engage with it? In my opinion, value isn't deemed as value until the end user deems it as so. All right. I also have my MBA where I did a focus in leadership. I'm like leadership obsessed, honestly. Mr. John Maxwell, he's one of my favorite leadership philosophers. And I take that to heart because I think that also plays a part in building new technology and creating an experience. I'm also people obsessed. So oftentimes people are like, wait a minute, you're an engineer and you're people obsessed? I'm like, yep, that is true. That's me. In addition to that, I have been told that I've learned how to defy time. And I'm like, I don't know if I would agree with that. But when I tell people that I am a single mother of twin boys that I had in the middle of engineering school and that I've been able to navigate my career, they're like, how did you have enough time in a day to do it? And I'm like, well, I guess you can say it's project management squared. That's all I could come up with for people. All right. I have also been in 5 different industries, 13 different industry switches, discipline switches, which means I've done a lot of different things across the board. And with that, people have often called me multi-bizlingual because I can talk the very technical talk if we need to go there, but then I can also talk the business talk just with the breadth of experiences that I have had. I'm an author, so I created a book about 2 years ago now, where I am talking about my journey and in hopes of inspiring others to embrace their journey. So now let's talk a little bit about my time at Microsoft. I have been in 5 organizations within Microsoft, starting in finance, where I actually was an IT auditor. So I had a chance to go across the company and audit our processes and controls. Then I made a pivot into the cloud and artificial intelligence space, where I did security training for our engineers. Then I pivoted to legal, where I did privacy operations, and this is when GDPR was really, really big. And then I made another pivot, and I went into sales and marketing, and I was the Azure go-to-market lead. So essentially, putting our build of materials together that we use to sell Azure to our customers. And then I made a pivot into HR. And quite honestly, I would have never thought in a million years that my career would take me on that path. And I'll talk a little bit more about how I landed in HR once I get a couple of slides in and we talk about the Viva HR journey. So, some can say I'm a connoisseur of experiences, right? I have done quite a bit of things, and I have had some of the greatest experiences that one can have, and I have also had subpar. That's a nice word to use for it along this journey. But I really believe that experiences and employee experiences, it really matters, especially when we're thinking about taking people on a journey with us. All right, enough about Tameka. Oh, I could not mention, so my unicorn, I actually leveraged Windows Edge Copilot to create my unicorn. And I had to make sure, I'm like, how do I make sure that this reflects me? And as you can tell by the colors, right, I think it does a good job, and the lashes and all those types of things. All right, quiz time. We're engaging early on. So, these will be true or false questions, and I'll gauge, and you can just shout it out what you think. And then after we get through this segment, I'll open up to see if there's any initial thoughts or anything like that. All right, employees' engagement is on the rise in the US. True or false? I'm hearing a mix of answers. The answer is actually false. About 30% of US employees felt highly engaged at work, and it's at an 11-year low right now as of Q1 of 2024. Companies with engaged employees are 21% more profitable, and engaged employees consistently outperform and stay longer and less engaged employees. All right, second one. 1 in 4 employees experience burnout. True or false? Okay, we got a mix here too. All right, that answer is actually true. Additionally, 37% of employees report working longer hours. 43% of women leaders experience burnout compared to 31% of their male counterparts. Change fatigue is also contributing to burnout, according to Forbes research. All right, number 3. 67% of employees in a hybrid workforce claim more efficient use of time. True or false? Okay. All right, we got a good consensus there. It is true. Hybrid work provides the flexibility for employees to work in ways that are most effective to them. Employees are also believe their current hybrid arrangements improve their personal well-being and productivity at work. All right, last but not least, over 1/3 of workers want to continue working remotely. True or false? True. Okay, I got a couple ones. It is true. Yes, currently 73% of workers work either hybrid or fully remote. 20% of the workers would quit their job if they couldn't work from home. Workers aged 18 to 25 are slightly less likely to prefer working from home. These are some links to the resources, and this deck will be provided afterwards as well. But I think that having this type of data is really, really important, right? It's important for every organization to have a pulse on what are the actual lived experiences of our employees, because that also helps with what type of technology are we enabling that will enhance the experiences that we're aiming to drive. So, I'm gonna open up. Does this resonate with you all? Why or why not? Do I have anybody that want to speak? Yes, Dan. And I have Dan, he has the microphone, and if there's anybody want to share.
Question on the last part, which said, 1/3 or 73% works either remote fully or hybrid. Is there a good data on how that is split between hybrid and full work from remote? Because I feel like most employers have gone significantly slashed full remote workers, and looks like everybody's hiding behind this one number that's hybrid as well as full remote work.
Yeah, so I'm not sure exactly what other corporations are doing, but I can specifically talk to the stance that we have made at Microsoft, which is we are embracing the hybrid work environment. So for example, I work fully remote, and I have been doing it now for the past 3.5 years. And so I think that the approach that people take is really dependent on the organization that you are at. All right, so let's go ahead and jump right in and talk a little bit more about employee experience from a Microsoft perspective. So at Microsoft, we believe that energized, empowered employees are the key to durable competitive advantages for every organization. We are very, very intentional about thinking about how are we empowering our employees along the journey? And what does empowerment look like? How are we creating environments where people feel like trust exists between them and their leaders? Do people feel empowered to navigate their career in a way that's meaningful for them? So we decided this on the front end, and it has helped us when we are rolling out different tools, et cetera, that we're aligning to our bigger goals that we have. Okay, the driving force for any business is its people. Improving employee experiences is an effective business strategy. You experience 10% better customer satisfaction, 20% higher sales, and 21% greater profitability. And this is really anchoring to why is employee experience important? Why should we have an emphasis in this area? So now let's talk a little bit about how we stay engaged and keep our employees motivated while at the same time staying connected. So one, we look for opportunities to have fun with each other. We're intentional about creating space where people can build community even within their own respective teams and the broader organization. We are also very intentional about being respectful of the multiple time zones that exist for members of the team. So we set meeting windows and work schedules to make sure that we are considerate of what works best for each individual. We model taking care of ourselves and taking advantage of our vacation time and unplugging from email. This is very, very important. And it's a way to attempt to minimize the potential burnout that your employees may experience. We pay attention to the cues that employees are being disengaged. We're intentional about leveraging our tools that we have in place, like Viva Pulse and Viva Glint, to get a pulse of how are our people feeling? Do we know when someone is engaged or not? Especially if our goal is to ensure that people are empowered and that we get the greatest level of productivity out of them. We ensure our voices are heard by modeling and practicing that behavior. When you have a team where it is truly hybrid, where you may have some people that are primarily in the office and some that are 100% remote, it's very important to make sure that we're creating space for each voice to be heard. And so it is not uncommon for you to hear a manager pause if they see, someone on the call who has not spoken, to create space and say, hey, Tameka, I haven't heard you talk all day. Is there anything that you would like to say or contribute? We also established team agreements. And this is our agreements to say, hey, this is how we will work together to ensure that we are effective, that we are respecting, what it is that best suits the group, and that we are creating space for you all to know that you are important and we value you being here. We express gratitude through sending praise. So through the Teams feature, you can easily send praise to someone on your team who may have done something nice for you or may have helped you with a project. And what happens with these praises, you could actually go into Viva Insights and you can view all the praises that someone may have sent you, right? And sometimes that could be a good morale booster when someone may be having a down day or, on the brink of experiencing burnout. They can look back at that and say, oh, okay, what I am doing is valuable. I am being seen. I am appreciated. And then we understand that hybrid at time may feel a little bit messy, but we're okay with working through that because at Microsoft, we made that commitment to continue through with having a hybrid work environment. Okay. Another thing that we promote a lot is one-on-one conversations with our managers. And the frequency on one-on-ones really depends on the leader. Oftentimes, you'll have a conversation with your manager and you all are aligned. Is it best that we engage on a weekly basis? Is it best that we engage on a bi-weekly basis? Whatever that is. And the goal is to make sure that we're asking the types of questions that will give us further insight into the employee experience that they are having. So we can pivot if need be. All right, so now we're going to pivot some, and I want to talk about the Viva HR journey that is near and dear to my heart. So back in 2021, an esteemed leader by the name of Rich Kaplan, who worked at Microsoft for about 33 years. He retired in last July. And he created this team within HR that was titled the Viva HR team. And essentially, this team was created to be the bridge between product, engineering, marketing, and HR as we were building out our employee experience platform. This was a new experience for many, as historically, HR does not have a direct seat at the table when it comes to building product. But given that we were working on an employee experience product, it's very important that we had that voice and perspective baked into the product. So what we did was we strategically engaged with leaders from across these various different groups to find common ground. One, to understand, what is this product? How can we use it? Is it valuable? If it's not, do we have a channel where we can give feedback that then could shape the future of the particular product? And that's actually where I began to work very closely with Dan in the room from Viva Engage. I also worked very closely pretty much with any one of the Viva modules that we have lit up. I was that person kind of being the bridge, ensuring that we had the right stakeholders from HR at the table. So when we were talking about Viva goals, I made sure that we had the leader over performance and rewards at the table, so that we thought about how does this fit into the broader strategy that we have around those particular areas. Where is there overlap? Where do they complement one another, etc. Also, it was really important too to understand the timing in which we were rolling out these different tools. So for me, I think it's really important, irrespective of what type of tool you roll out, whether it is Viva, whether it's Copilot or any tool, it's really important to understand, one, what challenge are we solving for? Two, what experience or intention, kind of like I set the intention for this session, right, are we trying to give people? And then three, how do we then leverage the technology to enable those experiences? I believe that this team's creation really made it easier for us to then adopt some of the other tools that we now have, because we built this space where people could feel comfortable within the HR profession to talk about, right, what their thoughts were on the product. They saw that when they did give feedback, we were giving it directly to the product team, and they were able to then implement some of those features. And if we didn't have them implemented then we were able to make sure that that was put on the roadmap for future feature development. I'm sure you all may have seen this slide before, but pretty much this is the high-level framing around how we're thinking about empowering organizations in the workforce leveraging Viva. So we have it broken up where we're looking at measure engagement and productivity, using insights, using Glint, using Pulse. And I'll double click a little bit more to talk about insights for a second, because insights is an area that we tend to do a double click in, especially when we're looking at the manager or leader persona. And there's a ton of data out here that tells us that people don't leave companies, they leave managers, right? And so it's very important for us to think about, how do we empower our managers to enable and support these employee experiences that we're trying to drive for? So there are dashboards that shows them high-level reflection of what is happening with their teams, right? How are people responding? Are there areas that we may need to do a double click in? In regards to Viva Glint, we use it. We have employee signals that goes out twice a year. It's our big one. And we are getting the sentiments and saying, all right, where do we then need to do a double click? And then we'll leverage Pulse too, because that's like that really in between when we are, a couple of months out from doing a bigger sentiment, but we want to understand what's happening. We can do a Pulse quickly, and that'll give us some insight into, all right, maybe we tried this initiative and it did land the way that we needed to. And if we did land, okay, we continue to do that. If it didn't land, then we pivot and we create a new solution and figure out if that lands. And what that does is it establishes trust with your team as well, because it ensures that the employee voices are heard. But when you take a step to take action on it, they actually see it as well, right? Which then could lead to an employee saying, okay, yes, I'm recognized. Let me stay a little bit longer, right? I'm not just another number, right? I am a valuable part of the team. The second bucket is to drive mission and alignment. And we did that using Viva Goals, Viva Engage, and we are slowly figuring out how do we adopt the Viva Amplify. So Viva Goals, we're really thinking about, how do we drive purpose at work? How do we ensure that people understand how their day-to-day work that they are doing ladder up to the broader initiatives for the HR organization, the bigger rocks? And when people feel like there is purpose in the work that they're doing, that could also contribute to them being motivated to do more, to stay around longer, etc. Viva Engage. This is one that we have used quite a bit, and in a couple of slides, I'll talk a little bit more, we're using it in even a more creative way. We know that when employees feel connected, they are more inclined, again, to experience a great employee experience, especially when we have people who are entering new to the organization or new to a team. How do we help them with establishing the sense of a community very early on? And then the last pillar is around enabling a high-performance workforce. How do we continue to empower people to skill and reskill in different areas? So as I mentioned, I've made 5 pivots within Microsoft, and I have been empowered to do so. We have so much training on Viva Learning that it's unbelievable. But it gives people a space to go to get training on whatever area that is of interest to them, that will then help them as they are navigating their career across the company. I've met so many people who have been at Microsoft for over 30 years. And oftentimes I'll ask, okay, well, what made you stay that long? And they're like, well, I felt like I've been at the same company, but I have had multiple jobs, so it never felt like I was stagnant or didn't get a chance to explore or work on things that I enjoy working on. Okay, so then this is just a double click around the framing associated with Viva goals, Viva Engage. We wanted to improve the clarity around the team goals, leadership expectation, helps employees feel more connected from a Microsoft perspective. Same here. This is just a double click through what I just shared and kind of walk through, but really using this data-driven approach to get the feedback from the employees, to make the pivots and the shifts when we need to ensure that our employee satisfaction is actually where we desire for it to be. And if it's not, being creative and figuring out how do we keep our employees here. It's very, very expensive, as many of you all may know, for someone to replace a new hire, right? And so we want to be intentional about making sure that we are retaining our employees and that we are giving them a valuable experience while they're there. Okay, and I mentioned that we are continuously thinking about ways of how we continue to evolve with Viva all around. And one of the things that we have decided to do with this new era of Gen AI is to create a community of practice for the HR professionals to help them along this journey. Oftentimes when it comes to technology, people may be afraid of, what does this mean for me? And so we're trying to create space for people to learn and grow from one another, sharing use cases so that people, can try new things and build that sense of community, but doing it in an area where people feel comfortable with sharing. Same thing with Viva Connections. So Viva Connections is actually one of my favorite go-to spots because on there, it has all of the key landing tiles that we need from an HR perspective. So if someone want to go on there really quickly and identify what are the upcoming required trainings that I need to have, complete, and when do I need to complete them by? And then they can just click right from that interface and go directly to that training. You can also figure out, all right, my latest pay stub. How can I get that quickly? Before, I know I personally would have to, do tabs in the web and then go back to and then forget where I put the tab, etc. So that has been something that's very, very useful. In addition to that, understanding the stock vesting cycles, right? Right there at your fingertip. If you go onto that towel, you click on it, it will list all of your vesting cycles out indefinitely there. We also have a place where people can submit for their Stay Fit perks. So one of the things that Microsoft does, it gives so much money each year to contribute to people's well-being. And really, you can use it how you want to. Books or exercise equipment or massages, etc. And so that's a place to see, all right, how much am I using? I should be using it more, right? And then they can go ahead and actually submit their requests right through there as well. Super simple process. And then also being able to quickly recognize, all right, what are some of the upcoming holidays? And this was another one where I would have to do a bookmarker to figure out where it's at. Any questions for me?
This question is specific to Viva goals.
Okay.
I came to the realization this week that it's more focused, again, on the strategic OKRs and not on individual performance goals. And I'm curious to know your experience on how you launch that along with likely your annual performance tool as well, and kind of how you positioned that and differentiated it.
Yeah.
For your employee population, or how you aligned those in any way?
Oh, that is such a great question. And actually, Viva Goals was the first app that we really went on the journey of figuring out how does it land in the Microsoft ecosystem. So one of the things that we did, we had several meetings with our product team, and then the leaders from the performance and development area. And what we did was we made space for each to talk about, okay, this is our intent for using our current performance management process, right? And then we had the product team talk about the intent for Viva Goals. And what we did was we actually ended up creating a frequently asked questions page where we drove that clarity around how are we using Viva Goals here? And what does that mean for us? And so we drove that clarity there. And when teams decided to roll it out, they had that framing. So they could clearly talk through, this is for the broader organization goals, right? And this is for my performance management. Now, interesting enough, oftentimes, the goals that you're driving directly for the organization ends up in your performance review, right? And so even now, we're still working very, very closely to figure out how do we have these two different platforms kind of talk to one another? And in the future, do we reimagine what that experience look like?
So we've heard of Copilot for sales, and I can imagine there's a Copilot for HR. If not, could you maybe talk about how Copilot and Viva intersect?
Oh my goodness. Okay, I can only talk a little bit about that because we are actually in the process of building out what does that mean from a HR Copilot perspective. So in a couple of months, we will have more discussions around that, but just know that we are intentionally figuring out what does that mean? How do we leverage Copilot to look across the various different tools that we have, that we use in HR, and at Microsoft we have quite a few, right? How do we have them talk to one another easily? How do we ensure that we're surfacing the right information at the right time, at the right altitude for our employees? So know that we are actively working through what does that mean. There may be some fatigue around the amount of change that's happening all at once. And so I believe that it's really important to think about how are we taking people on the journey with us? How do we show people that we are doing something for them and not something to them? Because people are more receptive if they feel like, oh, you're doing this to help me, etc., right? Also with that pace, I think it's hard for people to know how to unplug and make that space to recharge, which is why I also think that it's important for leaders to model the type of behavior that they're looking for at their corporations. If you are on vacation, right, and it's not an absolute emergency, practice, right, unplugging. Because if you do it, people are more inclined on your team to repeat what you do. If they see you doing that behavior, then it's almost like this subliminal, thought that they have that, okay, well, this is how I have to show up. So those are some of the thoughts that I have around why that number is dropping at this point. I'll add one more thing. Do people truly feel purpose at work? Oftentimes, Satya talks about us being purposeful at work, leveraging Microsoft as your platform. Do people feel that way, right? Are people working on the things that they truly want to work on? If they're not working on those things, do we know, one, what it is they truly do want to work on? Two, will we then support them along that journey to show them that we value their contributions to the broader organization, right? Even for me, like I mentioned, I've made quite a bit of pivots here, but I've also been in an environment where, one, I felt empowered to show up as my authentic self, to not minimize a piece of who I am, and to explore my career in a way that's meaningful for me. So I think those are some things that we should just be thinking about, right? And each one of us in this room, I'm sure we can say, yep, along my career journey, I've had some great experiences. And along, I probably had some that could have been better. And so I think that it's important for us to often put ourselves in those seats again and think about what it is we would have wanted someone to do for us at that moment, and then put those things in place.
Not a question, more of a comment. But what we're noticing, and I'm one of the employee experience global black belts here at Microsoft, but what we're noticing in a lot of customer conversations is really the need to understand what your baseline is. What do you want your organization to look like? Does it align with your mission and your vision for your organization? And a lot of times it just takes for that leadership to get together and have a series of discussions, and coupling that with the sentiment that you're hearing from your organization and really understanding what that baseline is and building on how do we get there and provide the tools and the resources for our employees that they need to see the results that we're looking for.
Curious, talking about the intersection between your role in HR and the product Viva. Mm-hmm. Can you think of an example of a signal that was heard from employees and how that translated into action potentially driven through these employee experience efforts?
Yes. So I'll give you an example from my specific team that I was in. And Rich Kaplan, like I mentioned to you all, phenomenal leader. Honestly, I think that he will probably be the best leader that I've ever had in my career. Honestly, I think, he has set the bar so high with that. And he is the first person that I have ever said that if someone had come to me and tried to double my offer, I would still stay with him. And I don't play about my coins. That's one thing, right? So to say that about a leader is pretty darn powerful. So how did he do that? He made space for honest and transparent dialogue. People felt really comfortable if he was headed in one direction and we had different thoughts about the direction. He would create a safe space for us to talk about what our opinions were. He would then take that information, process it, and come back with a different path forward. And then we'll get consensus again. So it took effort and intentionality, but as he did that, he created a team of people who were willing to not just go one extra mile, but will go 100 extra miles for him, right? So if we're thinking about how are we empowering, how are we providing the greatest experiences, how are we improving productivity, right? Those are ways that you can do that. So that's just one example, Dan, of how I've personally witnessed a leader lead in that way. And true Tameka fashion, I'm a homework doer, and so I always like to give some type of homework for people. So one, I challenge you all to think about, are you fostering an employee experience that enables a meaningful, engaged team? Two, hold yourself accountable to living out your values. Are you a leader you would want to work for? Three, are you contributing or are you detracting from the holistic employee experience? celebrate cultural champions in your organizations, address cultural detractors within your organization. And then last but not least, are you being intentional about recognizing your direct reports and beyond? Are you showing them that you value their contributions and that you are creating space where you all have this virtuous feedback loop? All right. Thank you very much.